welcome to Long Story Long. I'm your host, Lisa Curry. Today's guest is the wonderful Josh Gondelman. He is a writer and comedian. He's co-EP of the show Desus Mero, and he has a book out called Nice Try that is very funny, and I highly recommend it. I think you're going to like this episode. Check it out. Hey, Josh, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks. I'm given all the circumstances, I feel very fortunate and healthy and at home, and so I feel okay. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm good. I'm glad it's warming up. Finally, yeah. I'm, also here in New York, and I've never minded the winter before, but like now with quarantine, it feels more intense,
Yeah. Well, you're right. You're just in the house, and like you've lived in LA for a while too, so yeah. I imagine like returning to winter from that, you're like, oh, hello, old friend.
Yeah. And I'm also realizing like, the reason I was able to tolerate the winter so well in the past was because I was always out here doing a million sets and running all over. Mm-hmm. And then when you're sitting there, it's harder.
There's definitely like this year when it would get dark at like 4:45, I'd be like, do I just go to bed? Like, what do you do?
Yes, absolutely. I find myself like going to sleep earlier and earlier because I'm like, well, at least today is over, and not like I mean like just hopefully something's happening tomorrow,
right? Like fast forward.
Absolutely. So you're working full time from home right now. I mean, that's got to be intense.
I'm very, again, grateful that we've been able to do it. And our post-production team at Desus Mero has been amazing. So we when last year we had our last show in the studio in Midtown on March 12th, 2020. And we didn't bring an audience in. We just had staff members sit in the audience because we're like, it's not safe to bring in people, but we have these people that are already going to be here, so let's have them be the audience. And you can see Z-Way in the audience wearing a mask indoors, which was like the first time I've seen someone
that picture on Twitter. Yeah.
And then the 13th we like went down for 2 weeks and came back with a show on the 30th remotely. And so we've been doing shows almost fully remotely since then, like lately, with I think numbers going down and like kind of a better understanding of like health and safety protocols. We've done a few in-person super socially distant shoots with like just the guys and their hair and makeup people getting that close and like everybody else staying further away. And so, but like the bulk of the show has been shot fully remotely for, I guess, almost exactly a year now.
Wow. That's awesome that you guys are able to still do it so well during all of this time,
I think our show has the benefit of, because there are two hosts and occasional other voices chiming in instead of like one host speaking to camera. I think we get the benefit of like the two hosts like laughing at each other, so it feels like even an audience of one at a time or like, you know what I mean, is like such a boost to this kind of show where you're used to hearing audience laughter, where I think like it's so much harder to perform. And I mean, like the other shows are doing such a great job of it, but it's so much harder to like have Jimmy Fallon like in a studio telling jokes to an audience of no one, because it's just like such a like the rhythm of it is for the laughs, or the rhythm that people are accustomed to, and so like we get those laughs just like from Desus and Mero laughing at each other, which is really warm and nice.
That's such a great observation, because like some of the shows, and I'm still watching them and enjoying them, but there is like when that laughter is missing, it feels so weird. Even though I'm like, I work in this industry, I know, I know how this goes, and it still feels, especially with some of the political stuff, without the laughter, sometimes it just feels heavy.
Yeah. I think the laughter is like I think we're so conditioned, not in a bad way, but like we're accustomed to hearing that as like the cue of like, that was a joke, this is funny. And so like to not hear the laughs, I mean, it like, especially as not only television writers but as stand-ups, when you don't hear the laugh, we're like, oh, that there's like that thing in the back of your mind that's like, as good a joke as that may have been, like it could be a perfect joke, but without the laugh, you're like, that wasn't necessarily successful.
Yeah, it's like, no, I don't actually hate my mother. Everyone, hello?
Yes, exactly. What jokes with no laugh just sound like opinions.
Yes, and you're like waiting for somebody to answer it, you know?
Yeah.
So you're working on a lot of other stuff I keep saying quarantine, like you're not technically quarantined,
No.
It's just shorthand.
Yeah.
But can you talk about any of the things you're working on outside of the show?
Sure, yeah. So like the public facing ongoing things, I've been doing a podcast for almost a year from remotely as well called Make My Day, which is a comedy game show. It's so fun. Thank you. Where there's one guest or a team of guests and they play together, so the contestant always wins, which is very silly. And then at the end, the grand prize is a $100 donation to the charity or other cause of their choice, which is like, it just felt like, especially as the news was so bleak when we started the show, it was like, well, if I'm going to do something that's like, hey, look at me, everyone, I might as well find a way to like make it beneficial to other people too.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's one thing. And then there's all this like little stuff kind of percolating in the background. Like I'm like a pretty work-driven person in general. Like I should really have more hobbies.
I love to work also, and sometimes I get so excited by all the different projects I'm doing, and then I see what you're doing, and I'm like, how is somebody doing more than me? I don't understand.
I like mean it in I'm with you though, not in like a capitalist dystopia, like always be working, always be productive, but like the stuff that I do for work, so much of it is stuff that like I would have done. It's like so adjacent to stuff I used to do for fun. And there's that great like Conan O'Brien, I keep trying to look for it and I'm unable to find it, but like his talk that he gave, or like a comment that he gave in an interview about how when your recreation becomes your job, you're kind of left with that hole in like, well, what do I do to decompress from that? But the other, which is true, and like it's really real, like you need to do other stuff than work even when you have like a dream job. But the flip side of that is I do have like a dream job where I get the opportunity to do stuff that I think is really fun as professional development and advancement, and so I am like excited to do that a lot of the time. So I've been like slowly, I can't say like too much about everything. I mean, this I'm definitely at liberty to say, like I wrote a book a couple years ago, an essay collection called Nice Try, Stories of Best Intentions and Mixed Results.
Also so good. I'm not just going to say that about everything you do.
No, I will, because
if
it's bad, just tell me that it's bad. That's fine. I'm
here to confront you about the work I think you've done that's bad.
You've really been, this show is now what I do. It's like an intervention for hacks. So, okay, sure. But I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and I'm currently like working on a proposal for a new essay collection, which I think like the business way to do it is to like, I talked to my literary agent right before the book came out, and he was like, enthusiasm for this is high. People are really, there's good press. You've got good blurbs. You could, if you want to put it together right now, this was like the summer, 3 months before my book came out, basically. He was like, we could put together another proposal and like sell it pretty quickly.
Oh, wow.
And which is like kind of the like strike when the iron's hot, when there's like good buzz. And that, I was like, that's really thrilling, but like I don't know if I have another book in me right now that like I don't, first of all, it's a lot of work to do, but also it's like I didn't, like I had just taken a year and a half at that point basically to like scrape the crevices in my brain for like all the stories that I thought would fit for this book, and some that didn't end up fitting in there. And so it felt like, oh, do I really want to like dredge up the sludge of what's left over and be like, also this could be a book, and you know what I mean? Like it just felt like I would be giving like a leftovers book, like absolutely. Just like reheating the other stuff. And so now, a couple years later, the book came out in fall 2019, and so this is almost 2 years after we had like that original talk. We talked again, and he was like, hey, like, what are you thinking? Like, I think we could do something in this world. Like, people, you know, some editors that I've talked to would be interested in a follow-up collection that like really dug into XYZ from the last book, or like or builds on that,
or
and
a really dark version where it's just like...
really dark version. It's really dark. I've actually mostly over the past year I've been like dabbling in various crimes and drugs, and now I'm gonna write about that.
Yes.
But
famously,
famously dabbling in crimes and drugs. Yes. And so I'm like excited to pitch that, and maybe a children's book as well, like a picture book.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's definitely stuff that I've been I'm like, I don't know. I had the luxury of like, I've been working full time. I didn't need to write a second book, a second essay collection right away to like pay the bills. And so I really wanted to, instead of like kicking my own ass to come up with something right away, I was like, well, why don't I wait until I feel like a little bit recharged and reinvigorated? And now that I've like sat back down to like be like, what could this be about? What could a chapter outline look like? What stories are there? I think that's been really a really cool experience where I think if I had started 2 years ago, I would have been like, ugh, like really like, oh, come on, think. What are ideas?
Yes. Yeah, I imagine, like, I really love, you know, collections of comedic essays, and I always wonder, like, it's got to be so hard to think, like, try to reflect back on a story from, say, high school, and remember all of the details and how everything went, because it's like that's what makes it so interesting, is all the little things, or like what you were thinking at the time. And it's like, unless you were keeping a journal all the time, that seems so hard to put together. Yeah,
especially like when you're just alone writing, like an art. Like I think some of the best stuff, I was so lucky to have such a great editor on my last book, who would ask like questions about like, okay, but what did you like? What were your thoughts and feelings about this at the time? How do you feel about it now? Who were the other people? You know, just like
interesting
interview questions.
I literally did not know that was an editor's job to
totally
say stuff like that.
To be like she, like, I would turn in drafts to her, and she would be like, this is good, or like, this part doesn't work, but like, let's go deeper, let's dig more into this, like, can you flesh this out in these ways? And so like being interviewed kind of in that way, or being like interrogated, is really helpful to the process. But when I'm just sitting alone writing, I sometimes forget like what would be interesting to other people, or someone would go like, oh, why did you do that? And I would be like, oh, right, this person, like, the reader doesn't know that when I was 12, X, Y, and Z, you know what I mean? Like, they don't know that, like, I lived by the strip mall where we would just go in the parking lot behind it and set things on fire, and that is like a formative experience to me as like
your crime career, really.
Yes, exactly. But as like a tween, that's something that like, oh, I forgot that other people don't consider like just doing like low-key dirtbag things in a parking lot to be foundational behavior, or like or that they don't share that experience. And then it's like, oh, maybe that is, even though that's a low stakes thing, and like, so like whatever, like, I don't think about it all the time, but like, it is background for like, this is what I was, you know, this is like what our hobbies were as kids when we weren't like playing sports or doing school activities.
Absolutely. Well, it's nice also that you always have that as a hobby to fall back on when work gets overwhelming.
Well, in New York City, a big problem is fewer parking lots. So it's like, I don't have a backyard. Where am I going to light stuff on fire? I don't have a roof.
That's tough. That is really tough.
It's an underreported problem with the lack of space in New York City,
to just light things on fire.
Yeah, it's just like, where are you gonna fill a Coke bottle with like lighter fluid from your dad's shed, and then just see what happens when you throw a match in it?
Absolutely. Did you always want to write a book, or is this just something that kind of came about?
Yeah, I thought so. I went to college. I went to Brandeis, and one of the reasons I went there was because they had a creative writing major, and so my thesis was a book of short stories, and I kind of thought like, oh, I'm gonna be like a funny short fiction writer. That was like, because I wrote fiction. Like, my book is nonfiction, but when I was in college, I was like writing short fiction, and I was like medium at it, like not great, I, so that's what I thought I was going to do. And when I graduated, even, I thought that was like, okay, this is like the path I have to put myself on. And I was already doing stand up, but that kind of felt like that is like a hobby, kind of a side light or like a side job where I make, maybe a few $100 a month by the time I graduated. And like, so it was helpful, but it just the path to being a professional comedian, felt so so uncertain, and so the end goal felt so far off in the distance. Meanwhile, I know now that like what are there like 25 people in America who write humorous short fiction as a full-time job. So there are just like so many more working comedians.
And it feels like comedy is something where there's a lot of ways to branch off and make money, like podcasting or,
for sure,
touring or writing for TV. Like there's a million different, it's hard, but once you're in it, like there's this whole thing that opens up for you.
Right. Like comedy is like a genre more than it is like a specific job. And like, stand up is one thing, and like writing for TV is another thing. Like you're saying podcasting, like all that stuff is in the world and feels like it's not the same job, but like there are so many ways to like be a comedian, just the same way there are so many ways to be a writer. But like I think the idea of like writing only books as your only job, which was kind of like what I thought that job was, and not like teaching and lecturing and so many people who have written fiction now are like writing TV and developing for TV. So it felt like I thought like writer meant this one thing. And now I kind of like took this circuitous path and am back at like writer, which is really interesting.
It also feels like, I mean, for me at least, when I was younger, I thought of writer as like a person who sits in a wood paneled wall smoking cigarettes and like, just so tortured.
No doubt.
That's like not what it looks like, really.
If you're not in a cabin in Maine thinking about your own mortality, you're not writing.
It's like that, like, or The Shining.
Yes. And I don't think that that's true of every writer, and I don't think it's certainly not true of me. Like that's certainly not my process. Did you know you wanted to be a writer or a comedian when you were a kid? Like how far or how soon did you know that this was going to be your path? I liked doing it when I was a kid. Like I liked writing. I would like didn't have a lot of like follow through. Like when I was like a teenager, I would like start screenplays and like abandon them after 20 pages, or like write little, I was like would like write little 1,000-word blog things and never do anything with them, just like have them on my computer, and because I didn't know like where to write for, like it just felt like that was not accessible to me. But by high school, one like incredibly fortunate thing that I didn't know was like so formative at the time was I grew up in this little town in Massachusetts, and we had this big variety show every year at our high school called Carnival Ball, where individual students could submit variety acts and like clubs and stuff would do something, but each grade would write a comedy sketch basically and perform. Like anyone who wanted to be in it had to be allowed a part, at least as an extra, and each grade performed like I think in sequence, like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, over the course of the whole show. And that sketch was written by the like class officers, like the president, the vice president, the treasurer, secretary, etc. So I was, for some reason I ran, even sort of knowing this like freshman year, like before I did my first Carnival Ball, like before I'd even been to one, I had run successfully for class vice president, and our sketch went really well, and I had written wrote the bulk of it. Yeah, it was like very thrilling. And so
do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was. So I forget what the theme was. I think it might have been like Winter Wonderland or something. And so we
always
did. Yeah, there's always like
every school has a Winter Wonderland
or like Under the Sea. Like
yes.
Why is the prom always under the sea and never like in space? Like like it's not more realistic to have it under the sea. So we wrote a rhyming Dr. Seuss parody essentially called How the Grinch Stole Carnival Ball, you know, like pretty basic, 15-year-old stuff. But it like went over really well. And so for the rest of high school, I think pretty easily was elected to class office on the strength of sketch writing, and was
really
which
great.
is like ridiculous, like a truly wild, like you know, I think we have so many friends who are like, oh yeah, I was like a funny kid in high school, or I was like a shy kid that like wanted to do comedy, but like you know, high school is kind of a stifling environment, and I was like, oh, I was like numerically validated as popular because I was a good comedy writer compared to my high school classmates. So, and then also I did so much with Carnival Ball, like junior and senior year. Like I basically just got asked to like pitch a bunch of my own bits to like the overall flow of the show.
And then you just produced the whole event.
And I hosted, I emceed with my friends Emily and Carolyn senior year. So like it was like, I did theater too in high school. Like I acted, and I'm not a very good actor, which I say everywhere, and like probably it's bad for my career to like constantly be like, oh yeah, don't cast me and stuff. I'm garbage at it, but I'm not bad.
There's a lot of people making a living being bad at things, so like it's
for
not
sure.
it's okay.
I'll certainly take money to be bad at acting,
sure.
But what I really liked doing was like writing stuff and performing that stuff, and like writing stuff for my friends. So like I really liked being in the plays and like putting on shows with the drama club. But like the thing that was, I think, more preparation for what I do now and more like specifically exciting to me was getting to like write stuff and then say it to these crowds, and it was like really fun. And so it was like a very weird and specific training for like a career in comedy, to kind of like, not like there was this structure in place that I benefited from, of like, oh yeah, we need people to write comedy sketches. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to be the person that does that. Like, I think I can do it.
That's so fortunate that you had that. That's really cool.
Really wild and like lucky and fun. And I think it was not professional, but it was like big. It was, our school probably like full, I think it was 2 nights. Maybe it was just 1 night. Maybe the plays were 2 nights and Carnival Ball was just 1 night. But it's like the big auditorium in the high school was full.
Yeah.
And so it was like pretty easy, or not easy, but like because it's not a huge school and kind of everyone goes to these things, I was like kind of a big comedy fish in my little 800 person high school.
That's so great.
As a kid. Yeah. So
when you were doing that, were you immediately like, this is what I want to do, but for money as an adult? Or did it even occur to you that could be a trajectory?
So when I was looking at colleges, I was like,
the creative writing thing.
Yeah, so I went for creative writing, but I also at first thought I was going to be like a double major with theater, and that didn't end up working out. Like I didn't want to do like the practicum hours. Like I didn't want to like, dress in all black and sit in the wings and then like move a piece of furniture. Like that to me wasn't what
There's so much of it that feels so awkward.
And like you have to do that. Like you have to see how it works holistically. And so I took a playwriting class and I took some theater history classes, but I was like, I'm not that devoted to the stage as a medium. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm not like I wasn't like super talented as a musical theater performer. I wasn't like any medium is fine for me. I just like to write fun stuff. So I just felt like the requirements of this theater track were like less reading and writing than like the creative writing track, where it was just like all like workshops and literature classes. And I was like, oh cool, this is like the stuff that really I'm like interested in, reading different stuff and like kind of being forced to read stuff that was like not on my radar before, or not stuff that I would have even like really benefited from if I read it on my own without like instruction and discussion. And so I like quickly dropped the theater stuff, but like I didn't know what I was going to do as an adult. I wasn't like I'm going to write for Saturday Night Live, because it's still coming from not like a rural town where no one had electricity and you only heard like you heard rumors of movies, like someone would like come into town and like describe Space Jam, and you'd be like, what a beautiful dream.
And it's like 2010.
Yes, exactly.
And they're describing Space Jam.
And you're like, oh my gosh, you must have come here on horseback from 1995. But it was a small enough town where like there was one person who had graduated from my high school that was like in entertainment that I knew of. Mm-hmm. And I had never met this person. He was like older, like Mario Cantone went to my high school from comedian. He was on Sex and the City, comedian actor. Okay, cool. And Nancy Kerrigan is from my hometown.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so these were the two people who had done like visible entertainment, obviously Nancy Kerrigan is a competitive athlete, but I feel like figure skating or like it's
entertaining.
Any professional sport, when you get to the professional level, is like in part entertainment, right? It's not like a strict, it's not like it's just competition. It's also like artistry. And so but it didn't like occur to me, like I didn't know what the jobs were, so I was like, I guess I'm gonna be a writer, because I knew people wrote books and then published them. And so by the time I graduated college, when I was doing stand-up, I still kind of thought of myself as like it kind of morphed over the years where I was like, maybe I'll write plays, like, because I was like, I know there are plays, I've seen them, and I've seen them in my town. Like there's a level at which, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're like,
our high school puts on plays,
making these.
Yeah, and then like down the street from my high school, there's like a 300 person theater that does like professional production. So like I knew that, and I'd gone to shows in the city of Boston with like my grandmother and stuff, so I knew plays happen and somebody writes them. But like TV still felt so remote that it didn't even think, like I was like, I know like the Daily Show, like 90s SNL, and then like the early aughts Daily Show were like really inspirational to me, where I was like, oh, this is really cool stuff that I really like. But I don't think I like put a pin in a map and was like, I'm going there.
It feels like the barrier to entry for TV, like when you're growing up, or it's so much more mysterious. Like how, I don't know how people got into my TV, let alone how they wrote the things that are on television.
And even like when I was a teenager, like at 16, 17, 18, stand-up kind of felt that way too, where I was like, I've seen it on TV. I like loved watching stand-up. I was a big stand-up fan as a kid, and like loved like Hedberg, Chris Rock, Carlin, I'm trying to think of who else. Wendy Liebman, huge Wendy Liebman fan. She had specials that were always on Comedy Central, and I was like, oh, she's the best. And so like I had like strong comedy affinity and preferences, and was like, I would like to do that. And even on the local level, I didn't know how you went from not doing it at all to doing it at all. Like that jump felt so daunting to me. And then once I started, like the way I started doing stand-up at like actual comedy clubs was my friend Joe had started doing open mics, and a mutual friend that I knew since I was a little kid, since I was like 7 years old, my friend Dan was like, well, Joe is doing these open mics, ask him how he's doing it, just do it. Like, if he can do it, why can't you do it?
There's something about starting stand-up that feels like some kind of, like you're trying to get a secret code from somebody, where you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Who's doing this?
Because it's going from not having done it ever at all to like having done it once is such a big step. And the step from doing it once ever to doing it once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week is like, it's more time and effort. But like once you've done it, you're like, oh, I'm in this world. I know who to talk to. I know where to look. I know what it feels like to have done it. It doesn't like, because until you're like in that world, you're like, oh, an open mic, is that only for people that have already, like,
is it poetry?
Do I need to take a class? Right. What are the training wheels for this? And so like once I started doing it, I was like, I would go into the city from school in the suburbs and do it, do open mics like Sunday nights, and then I would get booked occasionally during the week, and then I just started finding out about more shows and would come into the city more frequently. But yeah, but like the idea of I would even, like, I knew who the famous comedians were, and I would even as a kid reading like the comic section of the newspaper see the names of people who I have worked with for years. I'd be like, oh, Tony V is playing. I thought there's great one of my favorite comedians, Tony V, who is from Massachusetts, has I think lived in New York or LA, and like has acted in a bunch of movies and TV, but like was in Boston steadily when I started and like working around New England, and I would see his name in the newspaper since I was like a kid, and I thought it was, because it's just the letter V, I thought he was Tony Five for some reason. And but like,
you know what, that would have been a good name too. Very
good. So I knew the names of all these people, Tony V, Frank Santarelli, Kelly McFarland, that I would just see all the time. And then, but I was like, but there must be some credentialing process, or
there probably should be.
Yeah.
Some kind of, at least a punch card, you know.
But what I like about stand-up too is that you can just like do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it exists. It's entertainment, but in a lot of ways, there are a lot of times you can do it and places you can do it that it is entertainment without being show business, if that makes sense. And I like that. Like, I like the idea of, oh, I've got new material to work on. I can text a friend who runs a show and ask for 5 minutes on their show to like work out new stuff and like make a crowd laugh or really eat it. And then have and do that without it being like a big production where like executives are involved and there's a lot of money at stake, and you know what I mean?
And you have to audition to do your thing or whatever. It is really nice that the freedom of just being able to do it whenever you want, and it's also, you know, your success or failure is entirely on you.
I really find that very stabilizing a lot of the time. Like there are things about a stand-up career that are very show business contingent, right? Like getting to perform on television or where you are booked on the road to headline. But there's also a level at which if you do it for a while in the same place, you just know enough people, if you're competent, that you can just kind of do it. Or like, even if you're not competent, you can like book a room and perform to whoever shows up. And I think that is like, you can't do that with a TV show. You can't just be like, I'm putting on a TV show in a month and I'm going to promote it. And like, it's going to go on TV whether anyone watches or not.
I mean, I guess if you're like a billionaire, you could probably do that.
Right.
Or the budget is a hindrance.
The versions of that I've seen have been like Chris Gethard and Brett Davis and like the people who've done like cable access stuff.
Yeah.
But that's not what I mean. I just mean like the thing of like, I'm going to do this. I don't need anyone else's help. I'm just going to like do it, and then it's done. And the stakes are only the creative fulfillment and connection or lack of connection with a specific room full of people. And I think that's really like, that's like a wonderful facet of stand-up, that it doesn't require like green lights and connections and all that stuff.
Yeah, and you've done now stand-up on, correct me if I'm wrong, but 3 different late night shows? Mm-hmm. Is that's got to be so thrilling?
It's always so thrilling. I haven't done enough of it that it's like old hat to me yet, where I'm like, well, I'm going to do another one of these and like, I better have new stuff. But like, I've done Conan, the TBS Conan show. I've done Late Night with Seth Meyers, and I've done the late show with James Corden. Are
you on a mission to do stand up on each show? Just
I
one
guess
set?
Now, yeah. Like, I mean, why not? Like, why not try? Part of it is, I think some of the shows don't repeat a lot of people. Like, I think I have a good relationship with the folks at Conan, and like when they relaunch with their HBO Max show or whatever, that, you know, whatever the next form that takes is, I think that's what it is, an HBO Max show. I think I can like reach out to them and like work on that. But like, Seth Meyers doesn't have people back on to like do sets really, and Corden doesn't often, and so it's like almost easier to like cultivate a new relationship than like bang down the door as like a non-famous person to be like, I'd like to come back, and they're like, yeah, everybody wants to come on the show. So it like almost is like, it almost feels easier to be like, I guess next I'll try to do the Tonight Show or the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, because they're more into the idea of like having a new person. Although the Tonight Show, they have a lot of, you know, they have like some
I know. I think Pete Lee has done it like 100 times or something.
Like 6, I think. Nate Bargatze's done a bunch. Nikki Glaser. So they do, like, when people are in there, like, as a favorite, they're on a lot. And that's that the Tonight Show and Conan, I think, are the two that like really do that.
Did you feel like a lot of pressure to, I don't know, like when you're doing your second and third sets on TV, was there a lot of pressure to do something like drastically different, or to like try to top your first one? Or
I definitely feel like I want them to go better and better, because I feel like they should over time, but I also just want to like be better at doing them. Like I want to, that I think is what I can control, right? Like I want to craft the set better, like have it feel more like a unit of comedy, like a 4-minute 45-second or whatever unit of comedy, but I also want to like perform more fluidly and feel more in the moment and feel less antsy about it, and just be like, this is a job that I'm qualified for, and I deserve to be here, and I'm going to soak this in and enjoy it, and like I'm a professional, and that is like what I, you know, I've earned this. Or even if, like, you know, lots of other people have earned it too, but like I'm here right now, and all I can do is my best, and I'm going to like have fun with it, because this is not like, it's not an audition. You've passed the audition, and now you've got the job, and you just have to like show up and act like you belong.
Is it hard to get comfortable with like the subsequent sets when you're in a new, you're on a different show, you're in a new soundstage, it's a new staff, so it's like I feel like the familiarity is what makes you comfortable on stage.
I've had lots of like, I've had only great experiences with like the staffs of the shows, and like I've had friends on each of the shows that I've done, so like friends have come down to say hello to like the green room or whatever, and that's been really nice. Like when I did Seth Meyers, Jim Gaffigan, who I know a very little bit, was the lead guest that night, and he just came into my dressing room and was like, hey, how's it going? And like we chatted for like 10 minutes, and it was like, it really put me at ease that like Jim Gaffigan, who's somebody that I've watched forever, loved forever, would just like come over, and like we'd met a couple times, and I was like, oh, he doesn't, you know, maybe he's just in the zone and like wants to run his panel or whatever. And he like came right over and was so nice, and it meant so much to me. And like, I was just like, well, I've already won the day. Like this has already been like a great day for me, that like he just came over and wanted to kick it for 10 minutes. And it was lovely. Yeah, it was so wonderful. And so I've had great experiences there, but it is really interesting because what you see, unless you're like really paying attention to the audience cutaway shots on a late night show, what you see on the stage or whatever is like, so it's just like one puzzle piece of the layout of the room. So they're not set up like a live comedy venue. None of the, like Conan, you're kind of standing, or at the studio they used to have, you're kind of pointed askew from the audience.
They're like face the wall.
Well, you're pointed like to the from what I remember, you're kind of pointed to the right, so you want to play to the left. Like that's your impulse in a comedy club, right? It's not to just play straight ahead to where you're looking, it's to like make sure you're connecting with the whole audience. But like you also kind of have to keep in mind that like the camera is like in front of you. So like I really had to like get advice from friends who were like who were like, oh yeah, go the day before, do a walkthrough, feel it out. And then Gary Gulman had so much good advice, because he's done so many of these, and it's just like he's such a great comedian, but such a killer at late nights, that's so good at like preparing them and executing them. And he told me, he was like, whatever you do, like deliver your setups wherever, like you can, look down in front of you, look up towards the back of the room to connect, but when you deliver the punchlines, go ahead and like don't look into the camera necessarily, but like look kind of just like past the camera, but straight on. And that's kind of what I was like trying to do. And I think like keeping that in mind, I was watching, when I watched back, I was like, oh, thank goodness someone told me that, because otherwise I would not have known, and would have like, would have thrown more stuff away like you do on stage, like or like been trying to like hit different pockets of the audience, like you do when you're like, when you're doing like a long stand-up set or even a short club set, you're not just like performing right to the person in front of you.
Unless there's like somebody distractingly attractive.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. Or like somebody who is just like, there's somebody that you just have this connection with, like they have a big laugh, and so you're kind of there's like an interplay, but on TV you don't really, for a TV set you don't really get that, because as much as like you're performing to get the reaction from the 250 people in the crowd, but really you're performing to the people at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like such a an interesting setup. And yeah, but so it's like kind of a reset every time, because even though you're like, I've been here before, I've done this before, if it's a new set where you're like, oh, okay, so I'm like 25 feet away from the audience and I have to like look straight ahead even though they're up, it just feels like you kind of have to like plan for that on the fly a little bit each time. Yeah,
that's really cool. So when you've done so much with, first of all, I mean, this is a side thing, but maybe you're gonna talk about this, so never mind. When you look back on your career and like how things have come together for you with writing and stand-up and you're obviously a big Twitter presence, is there something that looking back felt insignificant at the time or even bad that changed the trajectory of things for you in a positive way?
Well, I mean maybe the thing that you're talking around is, this didn't feel bad, but it certainly felt not necessarily like it was going to be career changing. But like when my friend Jacqueline Moore and I started this the Modern Seinfeld
exactly
Twitter
what I was
account,
thinking of.
It felt like, I think she had a better sense that like this is going to be like this could be its own thing. And it was also kind of a different time. Like, no, obviously it was 2012. It was late 2012. And it was kind of the time where like you could do like a bit on Twitter that was like a calling card that was not you, but was almost like a character or whatever that people were interested in. And there are still things like that now, but I think there's less of like, it was like a newer field. So people
Twitter's morphed more into like people being upset about politics, which
I mean,
is fine.
There's like a lot more sincere activism, and there's a lot less in the way of like silly kind of high concept bits, because like in one way, like everybody can do the bits now. Like I think there are so many things now that you could do that would just be like iterations of stuff that has been done already, and so many people are doing new things on like TikTok and Instagram stories. And like, so part of it is just like that has been drawn for a long time. But I think part of it is also just like the culture of being online has changed in some ways for the better.
Absolutely,
and in some ways for like the more stressful and annoying. But when we started the at Seinfeld Today account, I think it felt to Jacqueline like, oh, this should be its own thing. Like, I think this is really fun and people will like it. But it blew up so quickly, and like really kind of the stuff that I'd been wanting to be in the mix for, it kind of like, I kind of became one of the people of the like, hundreds, thousands of people that people go, oh, well, let's see if Josh wants to apply for this job, or let's see if we can, let's talk to Josh for comment on this thing that happened, like, or ask him to contribute to this. And so like it was this thing that I was just doing on my own account, like coming up with like a Seinfeld plot line for 2012, and I just tweeted like 2 or 3, and Jacqueline was like, yo, this is its own thing, let's like, I'm gonna like put a stake down and make this account, and then this is like, this will have its own life. And it did like beyond what we could have expected. It was
that's so cool that she was able to intuit that, because I'm like, I don't know, I would never have guessed.
I have no idea what people like. That's like the big problem with my career, is I don't know what people will respond to. I just know like, and I think in some ways it's like fun to just do stuff that I like, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. Like, I love writing this kind of joke, or like pitching these kind of stories or whatever. But I think in other ways, like, I wish I had a slightly keener eye for like, oh, I bet if I do this thing, it will appeal to people in this kind of like visceral way and be popular.
Yeah, I really feel you on that, and I'm in the camp of like most things I do, I'm like, this is it. This is the big one, because I feel so optimistic and I get really excited about things, and then it's like, oh no, I was way off.
way off. And I think there's something great about that, in that like you're spending your time, and this, I'm talking to me too, spending your time doing stuff that you like.
Yes.
And you aren't like, because there are few worse creative feelings than feeling like you chased clout or chased popularity or whatever with a project and it like didn't appeal, and then you're like, well, why did I do this? It stinks, and nobody even liked it. Like that is so frustrating to me when you're like, ooh, I bet this kind of basic take on something is really gonna like speak to the masses, or like whatever dumb thing I think. And then the masses are like, we don't care. And you're like, fair enough. Like, I should have just been spending my time like making some silly thing that like makes me laugh, or like that I could text to one friend and that they would really connect with. I
have whenever I've brought up your Seinfeld thing. First of all, I didn't know that you ran that account until I read your book. Somehow I mean, I had seen it, but I didn't dive deep into it. Yeah, I wasn't like, who is behind this? I was just like, oh, this is fun. Cool.
Oh, this exists. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. It and thank you for reading the book, by the way. But it was just like, it's such a funny thing that it was just like, you know, it felt like, oh, we could do this and it'll be fun, and like people like Seinfeld, we can do a good job at this. And then it really became like very quickly, like within a week, I was getting like production companies reaching out to me and stuff. That's really so wild. It was crazy. Like so unexpected. But it wasn't like, I mean, part of it was that we did a nice job with it, but part of it was, I think, like that immediate virality was something that people responded to, which is like, that's like a double-edged sword, right? Like in terms of, oh, when you get a lot of attention for something right away, you can imagine why people would reach out and be like, hey, what else are you working on? Like, what do you do? What do you like? Obviously, like, people know who you are and like your work, right? But it's also like chasing being viral does not mean like, and being good at it doesn't mean that you like have a good movie script. And like, I was like not quite ready for that level of attention. Not like I didn't like wither and retreat, but what I mean was like I didn't have the like back catalog that I could show to people and be like, here's my killer sitcom pilot, and here's my killer feature script, and here is a treatment for like a reality show that I would host and star in. I was just kind of like, I don't know, like, what do you want?
It's also like, because that is the modern day Seinfeld is such a specific thing. So it's like, you know, algorithmically, it's not like if that was a TV show, it would be like, you might also like this thing. Right. Like, because your comedy is so authentic to you, like, it would be kind of hilarious if they were like, what else do you have? And you're like, all Seinfeld, everything. I make all merch.
Seinfeld. It's also like a lot of places that we talked to were like, would you want to like write this as a pilot? And it's like, you mean Seinfeld? They've done that already.
No,
like, so there were places that like reached out about stuff like that, and I was like, can we legally even do that? And like, you know, we don't know. And it was like, well, why aren't you talking to your lawyer first? It just like that kind of stuff was like, so I was like, you want me to create the show Seinfeld? That's ridiculous. Like, Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David did that in like 1991.
You're like, that's the whole reason this Twitter is so successful, because everybody's seen it.
Have you not heard of Seinfeld? Because if you hadn't, I don't know why you even like this other than it has a lot of followers.
That just kills me too. It's like you're doing your thing and having fun, and then somebody with presumably a lot more I guess pull in the industry and power is asking you to just create Seinfeld. It's like, how did you get your job, man? Like, whoever's asking you, like, are you serious? You work?
Like, your idea as an executive in 2013 is Seinfeld, a show that ended 14, 15 years ago. It just, so I mean, like, honestly, that probably is like how there are probably so many people who are just like, their job is to be like, what can we reboot? So, but it's also like, you can't ask me to reboot Seinfeld. There's like people that are in charge of that already.
Well, and imagine if you had just been if you didn't know instinctually,
Yes.
like that's bad, and you were just like, sure.
Yeah, let's try it.
Yeah.
And then like we were like, we wrote a script and people were like, oh, you absolutely don't have the rights to this.
You work
This
on a
is like-
script for a year.
Yeah, right. For no, you do that because there are these like, for people listening, like when you're doing stuff like that, if somebody's like, hey, let's like work on this and then take it out, you're not always getting paid for that, right? Like sometimes
Almost never.
there's like this, there's this phase of like, oh yeah, like let's work on this together, and then if it pays off, then we'll make a bunch of money. But like, you know, for the person who is the development executive, they have like a lot of things going on with a bunch of different people and that's their job.
Yeah.
And for you, you're like, this is my ticket out of here or whatever. And you like spend all this time on it, and then you're like, wait a minute, I spent like 8 months on this, and then like it just like wasn't ready, or you know what, it didn't sell.
Yeah.
And so it's like a lot of work to do on, and all of it is to say, doing that for the show Seinfeld in the last decade would have been like such a preposterous and fruitless errand.
God, that's so funny. I did hear years ago that I don't think this would apply, but I heard that like Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld decided like to not be litigious about the show, where if somebody makes Seinfeld merch that's bogus, they're like, we don't care, we've made so much money, have fun, make your
That's
Kramer
great.
merch or whatever. So, you know, I don't know, maybe you could.
A TV show also called Seinfeld with the same characters. They're like, hey, let him have it, Mazel Tov, you have our blessing.
I do feel like I've told some younger comics, and I'm actually dead serious. I'm like, listen, if you're at a gig and you need some filler material, take stuff off of my album if you want. I don't care. I'm already making money off of it. If you can make money off of it, go for it. You know, I don't.
There's someone, I saw someone at a show doing a bit that is very similar, definitely not stolen, this is not an accusation, but doing a very similar bit to a bit that I'd done on TV. And I was like, I'm not doing this bit anymore, really. It's like, I don't want to have an awkward conversation.
Yeah.
I think enough people, like, the set exists so that no one will ever like accuse me of having stolen it, but it's not a well-known enough bit that like people will see this the bit that they were doing wasn't like as big as like, you might be a redneck or whatever, where people would be like, what the hell is that? Like, why are you doing Jeff Foxworthy's act?
You're
but
like, wait till you see my Seinfeld.
yeah, exactly. So I just was like, let him have it, or let this person have the bit, like let them have it.
I feel the same way. I've seen it. There's a set I was working on for TV that, before the world shut down.
Yeah.
And then somebody was like, hey, that bit you have, this guy did it. And I think the friend was trying to accuse him. And I'm like, this is a New York comic. I live in LA.
Yeah.
He kind of goes a different way with it at the end. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm also just like, I'm not precious about it, because I'm like, I feel like I'm probably going to work until I die. So I don't know if there's some crossover on 2 minutes of all of the material I've written.
Sure.
It's fine.
Of course.
Who cares?
I had a joke that I used to do that was like a long story, became a plot point in the pilot of a popular Netflix show. And I was like, I don't think this is stolen. Like, I don't think I'm on the radar at all of the people who made this show. But it's also like, it was an old bit. It's on my album. My first album. I don't need to, why would I make a thing out of it? Where it's like, what do I want from this situation?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what would I be chasing by being like, hey, I do this bit? And it's like, I don't know. I was fortunate that it was like, not something that I was about to release, and that it was something that that I had done for a long time, a long time ago. But it is like a weird situation, and I try to let that stuff go, because like, unless something is so specific to my own life, then like it feels like hey, a lot of people, like, we all live on the planet Earth.
Yes.
Most of the working comedians I know live in this country, many in like the same 5 cities. So,
Yes.
like,
And there's also this thing with, like, you know, with so many comics being on Twitter and writing jokes on Twitter, you notice after a while people that are not professional comedians or not, you know, an accountant in Kansas City who's on Twitter a lot kind of learns the cadence of like set up punch, and so they may come up with some of the same things. And I've had people send me things before where like, this person tweeted something that you did, and I'm like, I don't care, I'm not getting paid for Twitter. I could not care less. You could take literally every one of my tweets, you can have them, I don't care. You know, right.
It's what I mean, people shouldn't do that, but like when they've done, it's like, well, why? What do I gain for like being mad at someone for having like a very similar tweet to mine, and like have like enjoy your viral tweet or whatever.
Have fun.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. Enjoy the hell of people replying to you for 2 days to like yell at you for an opinion that you don't even have. Like I like a few months ago tweeted something like the abbreviation for teaspoon and tablespoon are too similar and nobody's talking about it. And for like 2 to 3 days, people were like, they're not that similar. Or like,
my God.
You should be using the metric system for your like measuring in milligrams instead of
some of the things that people reply with, it's confounding. I can't believe it. Some of the things people say.
And especially because I think there's like, when you're replying to a tweet, when you are, and when I am, I think we consider like, how many people have also had this response? Maybe I'll check. But like, I think a lot of people use it as like, I read a thing, I thought a thing, I said a thing. And so you end up getting like dozens of the same response, which like one of them probably isn't that annoying. But like, by the time you've read like the 25th person being like, you can't tell the difference between a capital T and a lowercase t, idiot. I'm just like,
I want to just ask you one more question that I didn't put in the email because I like to catch people by surprise.
Of course.
If your childhood self could meet you, if like 11-year-old Josh could meet you today, what do you think he would think of you?
He would be like, you went bald like dad, just like on the same timeline, which you were worried about as a kid but are fine with as an adult. That's, I think, something that he would think. And I think he would think my life is like pretty cool. Yeah, like I have a good I am married, and I'm married to a person who I love and admire very much. I have like a career that is certainly beyond what I ever expected when I like started doing comedy, like to get to write for shows that people see and that have like, I've had like the immense good luck to have won some awards for writing for shows that people like. And it's just really like, I think I would be like pretty thrilled and like excited to see how that all happened, and like to experience the intervening steps between like 11 and 36, those like 25 years, which were not uniformly good, but there were lots of good moments.
That's great. I love it so much. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was so great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me. So great to talk to you. Really nice to see you. And let's hang out once it's nice weather and safe and everything.
Yes, please. All right. I'll see you soon. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. Once again, that was Josh Gondelman. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram at Josh Gondelman. It's Gondelman. I'm Lisa Curry. You can find me on Twitter at Lisa_Curry and on Instagram at olympianlisacurry. If you're enjoying the podcast, it would be really cool if you would go ahead and rate it or like it, and please subscribe. It really helps. All right. See you next week. Bye.